Merry Christmas Eve to those of you who celebrate. We start satsang always with a question that has come from our beautiful family who joined through this gift of the internet. And then we'll open it up to any questions that anyone here might have. So if you have a question, there's a microphone here. Don't be shy. There's no such thing as a wrong question or a stupid question or a silly question. People have this fear that, God, I've got this really stupid question. If it's important for you, chances are it's important for others. So there is nothing that's stupid, there's nothing that's silly. If it's a deep question for you, feel free to come to the microphone, share your name, share where you're from, and share the question. But we'll start with one that has come from our global audience. So this one is kind of long, so bear with me. You mentioned in a recent satsang that we all come here with our own karmic packages and that we should love each other, including our family and friends, as they are, because we cannot control anyone. However, in another satsang, so satsang 1, they're saying that I say we all have our karmic packages that we come with, and we should love each other, including friends and family, as they are, because we cannot control anyone. But in another satsang, so in satsang 2, you said it is best to stay away from certain toxic people from whom we absorb their negative energies, because we must protect ourselves to stay healthy. Aren't these two contradictory? This is asked by Tammy in Kansas City, Missouri. Okay. So basically what she's doing is she's giving two teachings that I've given. And she's saying, I don't understand how these go together. In teaching 1, you say everyone is here with our own karmic package, our own karmic journey, can't control anyone, so we have to just accept people and love them as they are. But in teaching 2, you say, make sure to avoid as much as possible people who are really toxic, because you have to protect your own spiritual, emotional energies. And she's wondering, aren't these contradictory? They are not contradictory. Loving someone and accepting someone does not mean that you always choose to be near them. There may be people who we love from afar. You see this a lot of times, for example, in families. If someone is suffering a drug addiction, alcoholism, in which, for example, they will steal from other family members or cause a threat to certain younger family members. And so sometimes parents have to do what's called tough love and basically say, if you keep using drugs or drinking alcohol, we will not financially support you anymore. You can't be in this house. Doesn't mean that they don't love their child anymore. Doesn't mean that on the deepest level they don't accept this child as he or she is. But what it means is that they recognize that the way that person is living is harmful to other people in the household. Now, in terms of people who are toxic to us, when someone is in the midst of their own anger, frustration, resentment, jealousy, stress, all of these things cause us to act in ways that are not our highest spiritual level. And a lot of times we take it out on people who are not actually the ones we're angry at. So for example, I go to work, my boss yells at me, maybe my boss is going through a divorce, maybe my boss is an alcoholic, maybe my boss is just an awful angry person. But nonetheless, I go to work, my boss yells at me for nothing that was my fault. And it's not the first time. Say he yells at me over and over and okay. But I can't yell back at my boss because I'm going to lose my job. I come home, I yell at my family members, maybe I'm really fed up and I raise my hand to my family members, my kids. Now, imagine that you were the husband or the wife of such a person and that you have young kids in the house. You understand that he or she who's coming home and doing this, they're not a bad person, they're not evil. All that's happening is, due to their inability to work with their own frustration, resentment, anger, stress, they come home and they take it out on the family. You're not going to hate them. You're not going to dream of harming them. You're not going to stop loving them. But you may very well need to say, if this behavior doesn't stop, I am picking these kids up and we are getting out of the house. Because no matter how angry or stressed or frustrated you are, I cannot have you coming home and harming our children. Doesn't mean you don't love them. But it means that you need to protect yourself, maybe other family members, from this toxic energy. So those two things go together very easily. We love and we accept people as they are, because really, honestly, there's no other option. Not loving someone and not accepting them never changes people. It's never like, oh, you don't accept me as I am. Well, okay, I'll become a better person. People don't do that. They may act differently for a few short days or weeks to get you to like them or go out with them or not be angry at them. But it doesn't change them deeply on the inside. Our non-acceptance of how someone is doesn't change them. We think it will. We think if I just hold this grudge, if I just refuse to be nice to them, if I refuse to accept it, they will change. But people only change, very important life lesson, people only change for one reason and one reason only. Because they want to change. On a deep enough level that that desire to change is stronger than Newton's laws of physics of inertia and motion, that it's stronger than their habits, it's stronger than their personality, it's stronger than however many decades of life they've lived like that. That has to be a very, very strong desire to change. And we can. People do change, but not because you want them to. They only change when they have a very deep, very personal, more powerful than anything else in their life desire to change. And honestly, it usually only happens when they are suffering so deeply in the way that they essentially hit what we call bottom. Whether it's in addiction, whether it's in emotion, whether it's in way of life. But they hit bottom Whether it's physical, whether it's a doctor who says you're going to die, but something happens and makes them really want to change. But from our side, that's not our job, because all that does is lead to frustration and resentment and anger in us. Our job is to accept them as they are, to recognize as they are right now is exactly perfect for the karmic journey they are on, for the karmic package they have come into this world with. And my role is not to change them. My role on my spiritual level is to find love and acceptance in my heart. Because if I can't, then their behavior steals my peace. Their behavior prevents my enlightenment, my freedom. And that's just a power that we are not meant to give to anyone. So from our spiritual side, we love them and accept them as they are. And if the way they are being is toxic and harmful, we learn to love them from a distance. It's like the example that I give so frequently, during the time of COVID. If someone in your family got sick, you didn't stop loving them, you didn't kick them out of the house, you didn't yell at them through the door, "How dare you, you're an awful person, make that COVID go away, stop the fever." You kept loving them. You accepted that they had this illness. You did whatever you possibly could do that they needed. But you also recognized that you had a very serious duty to your own health, to other family members, especially if you had kids or older parents or immune-compromised people. And that duty was to make sure that you didn't catch it. And so you loved them, but you loved them from the other side of a closed door. You loved them from the other room in the house. Maybe you went to a hotel. But you did whatever you needed to do to protect yourself, even though you love them, even though you accept them. Because those two things are not mutually exclusive. They are not contradictory. And the same thing is true when it's a disease in someone's mind, disease in their habits, disease in their beliefs that causes suffering, that causes toxicity. You love them from afar. Yeah, great question. I'm glad that you asked to clarify it. Other questions that anyone here has? Yeah, come to the mic. Yes, come. You don't need to wait to be called on, by the way. If you have a question, you can come.
Namaste.
Namaste.
I'm from Calcutta. My name is Pratibha. I'm into spiritual practices. I'm a pranic healer as well. And I'm a past life regression therapist as well. I would be thankful if you can enlighten your thoughts when it comes to detachment. It's very difficult being a mother, being a wife, being a daughter. So we practice in our own ways, but for moksha, or we can say anything, we always get attached with the soul, and when the soul departs, it's very difficult for us to accept. So if you can enlighten your thoughts.
So we're actually never attached to the soul, we're attached to the body. And it's important to remember that, because the soul hasn't gone anywhere. The body leaves. Meaning, the soul separates from the body, which is a good thing because the body is cremated or buried, and you wouldn't want to cremate the soul, you couldn't anyway. The soul departs from the body. That's at the time when the body dies. But the soul is there. It's not like the soul then disappears into the ether. Soul is there. The soul was not contained in the body. Think about air in a balloon. Okay? Now you pop the balloon. The air is gone from the balloon. But have you lost the air? Have you lost that air? Where'd it go?
It's in there.
Yeah, it's right here. Didn't go anywhere. All that happened is it used to be associated with that balloon. Now the balloon popped. It's no longer associated with the balloon. The balloon no longer is a container for it. Similar to the soul. The soul is not contained by the body the way that air is contained by the balloon, but nonetheless, it's a good analogy. So, it's the body we're attached to, the personality, the companionship, all of that is part of the body. That's what we're attached to. When the body becomes devoid of that prana, of that life force, of the soul, it's when it goes from being a loved one to a body. And it happens in an instinct. I mean, in an instant. 1 minute, mom. Next minute, the body. 1 minute, dad. Next minute, the body. Literally. 2 minutes ago, you were talking to dad. Now dad dies. And it's who's going to remove the body? Right? 2 minutes ago, it was dad. All that has changed. They're still warm. All that has changed is the soul is no longer with that body. That prana has left the body. So first thing to remember is the body is what we are attached to. भैया इनको थोड़ा सा अपने आप कर दिया करो है ना. The detachment is not a detachment from the soul. It is a detachment from, not even from the body. It's a detachment from the way that the body behaves. When we speak about attachment, it's not usually just, oh, I love this person so much. And I wish that they would talk like this, act like that, treat me like this, do that. That's the attachment. The attachment is to how that body behaves.
Are you talking about the expectations?
Absolutely. But the attachment is attachment to the expectations. We have an expectation, but now I am attached to the outcome of my expectation. So I may have an expectation that you are nice to me, but if I'm not attached to it, then even if you're not nice to me, okay, Cello, my expectation wasn't fulfilled, big deal. But if I am attached to that, then when you are not nice to me, I am very hurt. And this is where Bhagavan Krishna teaches us so clearly in the Bhagavad Gita, let go of the attachment, not to the labor itself, not to the work itself, not to the person themselves, but to the fruits of that labor. Means let go of the attachment to how things turn out. Meaning, I've loved you. We'll call that my labor. Right? Labor is not only just, what I'm building with a hammer and nails or gardening. Labor is everything I do. My karma, my work. I love you. I'm nice to you. I do things for you. I help you. Now I have an attachment that you are going to be nice to me. That is essentially the fruits of my labor. Hare, I've been so nice to you. I've loved you for so long. I've done this. I've done that. How dare you not treat me with this love? That is the fruit of my labor. How you treat me is the fruit of my labor. How I treat you is my work. My dharma, you could say. And this is what Bhagavan Krishna reminds us over and over again. Do your dharma. Part of our dharma is to love, to have compassion. All of it, the whole spectrum. You do that. You be an embodiment of love. You be that friend to all. You be the caring one to all. But do not be attached to what comes back. So that's the key attachment that we need to let go of. In the family, it's not that we let go of loving each other. It's that we let go of the attachment of how each other is going to behave. Because that's the problem in the house. She's like this, he's like that, why don't you do this, and this one, and that one, and that. Ye janjar ho raha hai. We have in our minds an expectation of how people should be. Our expectation is based on how we are. And then we are attached to it happening like that. So definitely if you're looking for moksha, but even if you are only looking for a peaceful and happy and harmonious family life, it's not that letting go of attachment is for the sannyasis and the monks. People have that misconception. No, it's actually the only way to live happily in a family. It's actually just as much an imperative, even more of an imperative. You've got a sannyasi living in a cave on a mountaintop. Well, in most cases, they're already detached. Otherwise, they wouldn't be living alone on a mountaintop. The teachings of detachment are much more, actually, for the householders. Be in the family, but don't let it make you stuck. Like the lotus, be in the muck, but don't get mucky. Be in it. The teaching is not pluck the lotus and take it out of the muck. It'll die eventually. That muck where it grows, that's where it gets its life force. You pluck it like you pluck any flower, it's going to die soon. So the solution is not get out of that. It's be in it, but be free. Love them, because that's your dharma. But don't be attached to how they are in response. Yeah.
I have one more question,
Sure.
please. When
Sure.
I see you, I'm getting multiple questions. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. No
In
problem.
different religion, there are different concepts when it comes to body and soul. So, soul departs. And does it take a rebirth again, or it's in the universe?
So in the Hindu tradition, in Sanatan Dharma, we believe that in the tradition in which we speak about God as Brahma the creator, Vishnu the sustainer, Shiva the dissolver, in that perspective, every one of us is here in a human body with our Jiva Atma, our individual soul, that is taking birth after birth after birth until its karma is finished, at which point it reunites fully and completely back with Paramatma, with the divine, and then it no longer has to take that birth again. It no longer has to be in this wheel of samsara. Now, that can happen while we're living also. You know, we speak a lot here about Jivan Mukti, free while living. you could experience that moksha, that awakening, that enlightenment in your body. You don't have to wait till you die. And at that point, the body becomes a boon, a blessing, not a hindrance. And then we have many, many, many people, our gurus, avatars, awakened ones, who keep coming back. Not because they're stuck, not because they have to, not because they've got karmic bank accounts to work out, but because they are free and choosing to come back in a body to help others. But in terms of those of us who are here because we have to be here, yeah, we keep taking, it's not that the soul just floats around in the universe. The soul will come back in another body to finish or to take the next step of its karmic journey until it merges completely, at which point all of the identifying characteristics of it, what we call the subtle body, man, buddhi, ahankar, that travels with the soul until it attains that moksha. At that moment of moksha, the subtle body essentially burns off. We are free of that. It's why the enlightened masters so frequently seem almost transparent. You know, when you're in their presence, it almost can feel like you are looking through a window into a divine realm. That they don't have that sense of like, this is me, that the rest of us have. That they serve in many ways. If you're really quiet in the presence of the enlightened masters, you can see that I've noticed that a couple different times, that you just feel like you're in the presence of one who's really actually quite transparent. That there's no like sticky personality. It's not that they don't have beautiful personalities, they do, but it's not sticky in a way that when you're interacting with them, it's just a person, but that they are actually a window through which you can see. Because that sense of ego, and it burns off. But yeah, the rest of us keep coming back until we exhaust our karma, and then that soul reunites with what you could consider the Supreme Soul. But it's important to mention a bit of a caveat here. Reminds me of being in math class in elementary school and high school, when they would teach you something and then they would say, but this is true for now, but we're just telling you that, 3 years from now when you get into calculus or when you go off to university and you take advanced math, you're going to realize that this isn't actually true. So, on a whole other level, there is no distinction between Jivatma and Paramatma. There is no separation of the two, therefore no reunion is necessary. There is no bondage. All of that which is happening in the field of our own consciousness. That's the perspective from which the Advaita Vedanta tradition comes. So there's two different ways of looking and understanding this, and it seems important to at least give you both.
Thank you so much.
Of course, of course. Yes.
Har Har Mahadev Sadhviji. My name is Priyal Sharma and I'm 17 years old and I'm from Delhi.
Wonderful.
So my question is that in spite of working so hard for a goal, particular goal, if you're not getting the desired results, and you're not getting the results, so is it right to accept the destiny and move on, or should we do our karma towards the goal and like keep on trying until we achieve it?
Great. Depends what the situation is. For example, you're 17. If you said to me, I am working really hard in school, but I'm not getting good grades, and no matter how hard I study, I'm not getting good grades, and should I just accept this as my destiny and drop out of school, or should I keep trying? I would say absolutely keep trying. Under no circumstances accept failure. Whether it takes you 10 years to graduate high school or 3 years to graduate high school. Either way, absolutely keep trying, absolutely keep trying, absolutely keep trying. Because it's not about the classes themselves. It's about the world in which you are about to enter, in which having at least a high school diploma is pretty much a critical prerequisite for almost any job you want to get. And to not complete it would be to close way too many doors way too early in life. So on that level, high school degree, college degree, keep trying, make it happen, whatever it's going to take, get extra help, but graduate high school, go to college, graduate college. Beyond that, I would have a slightly softer approach. Those are the pieces that I am just very pukka about. Doesn't matter. You have to graduate. But then when you start to look at a profession, sometimes we get in our minds this idea that I want to do X. And you try it. And you work. And it doesn't happen. Don't give up right away, by any means. You will always face challenges. There will always be challenges. But in your working life, I would certainly say, and in not even work, but other things. Say you know, have a crush on a guy and you think, oh my God, he's my soulmate, like he's the one. Okay, try. But at some point, you would say, this is not in my destiny. I would not recommend that you spend the next 20 years, for example, trying to get some guy who doesn't appreciate you to appreciate you. I would say move on. His loss. And in a work field, particularly in the field of business and entrepreneurship, try. Absolutely. Give it all you've got. But at some point, you may have to say, okay, maybe this particular invention, or maybe this particular business that I want to start, or maybe this particular, startup, or whatever it is that I really thought was going to work. Maybe it's not meant to happen, at least not right now. Because I've seen a lot of people spend decades of their life, kind of all of their family's money, on something that ends up not working. And then they end up at, 45, 50 years old. They've spent all of their, not only their money, but like all of their family's money, their friends' money, because they convinced everybody to invest in it. Keeps failing, keeps failing, keeps failing. At some point you would say, why don't you take a break from this? Try something else for a while. Try a different path. Maybe it's going to happen from you, but maybe not now. Now that you've taken everybody's money, why don't you get a different job, help pay them all back? Then try again. Maybe the technology isn't there. So it depends what the question is about. School, finish it, definitely. Other things in life, make sure that you are staying committed, that you're having tenacity, that you're not becoming lazy, that you're not giving up. And yet also you don't want commitment to become stubbornness. There is a line in which if you are open and clear and not clouded by ego and desire and arrogance and illusion, you can see that this is just not the way the universe is going. Especially if everybody who loves you says to you, sweetheart, this is not the way the universe is going. That might be a good time to trust them, at least for a while. Doesn't mean forever. If you've got a dream that you're going to do this, great, this just may not be exactly the right time. Do something else for a few years, then come back to it. Okay? Does that make sense? I know it's ambiguous, but you've got a whole long life ahead of you. So different answers for different life situations. Of course. Have a beautiful rest of your evening, everyone. A beautiful morning and day to our family joining us from all over the world. Tonight we got about almost an hour later than usual because we had our beloved Kailash Kherji with us in the Aarti with all of the beautiful songs, which was always such a gift. But just to mention it for those of you who are still going to be here tomorrow and afterwards, typically Aarti begins between 5:15 and 5:30. It ends around 6:15-ish. We start satsang around 6:30, 6:45. So if you're going to be with us tomorrow, which I hope everyone is still here tomorrow, be sure to satsang right afterwards, because we'll be back on our normal schedule tomorrow, unless of course Kailashji decides to stay and sing for us again. But otherwise we'll be back on our normal schedule tomorrow. And so